Hello everyone, this is Cog, or as I go on the server Kakyon, and this is a guide for getting started on the Jojo's Bizarre Adventure card game on Dulst. First thing you're going to want to do is open a browser, preferably Firefox or Chrome, because they work best with the site. Then you're going to want to go to www.dulst.com/Jojo. DULST.com/Jojo. And we're going to go ahead and do that. You're going to want to click on sign up, put in your email, a username, password, verify, register, all of that. But I already have an account, so I'm just going to log in. The first thing you're going to want to do is go to collection. Here, it'll show all the cards you have. When you first start out, you're only going to have the starter deck. You start with Jonathan Joestar, your Vampire Horses, Ogre Street, Bad Company, Silver Chariot, basically, so Whole Horse, only 1-star platinum. So I'm gonna go over the basic card anatomy now. Go to view all cards. I'll just select Jojo. Here's a champion card. All champions have 30 HP and an ability. If your champion's HP reaches 0, you lose. The game's very similar to Hearthstone. Your ability can only be used once per turn, and it costs the amount of mana listed on the card next to power. For example, Jojo's is 2, and his ability is Intimidation. It lowers a unit's attack by 1. While he can't use it more than once per turn, he can use it over several turns on the same unit. So if you had a card like Cars, I don't know, he's got like 6 attack, Jojo could use the ability 6 times until his attack is 0. He could even keep using it and make his attack a negative number, but that doesn't show up. It still just shows up as 0. Anyways, the next thing we want to look at is the basic unit. So as you can tell from the champion, the red circle is HP, and the yellow circle is attack, which is how much damage the unit does when it attacks. Up in the left hand corner is the mana cost, because much like Hearthstone, we work on a mana system, and it costs a certain amount of mana to play cards, and you get a certain amount of mana per turn. You start with 1 mana per turn, and you end with 10 mana per turn. You can get up to 11 using a poker chip, but the max you'll ever get per 1 turn is 10. Each unit has a class. For example, for Silver Chariot Baby, it's a stand. You've got the part and the rarity. There are lots of different classes, pillar, undead, stand user, stand, obviously. So we'll look at the rarity. So in the bottom right hand corner, you see this word common. If I click edit mode, we'll be getting a bit more technical. The card rarity for Silver Chariot Baby is 20. You can probably read what's right here. The rarity level describes how frequently this card will appear in drops. Larger numbers are more rare, but each card has its rarity displayed in the corner, and I'll explain. So it can range from 1 to 99 for obtainable cards, and it'll display as follows. It goes from 1 to 20 for common, 21 to 60 is rare, 61 to 80 is ultra rare, 81 to 90 is epic rare, and 91 to 99 is mythic rare. The rarity of a card does not demonstrate how useful it is in gameplay. Emerald Splash is a common card, but it is one of the most defining in the meta, while Sunlight Yellow Overdrive is practically useless, but it's an ultra rare, I believe. Cards worth based on their rarity. Moving on from that, there are a number of abilities each card will have, and I will go through each and every one that are currently implemented in the game. The first up, and one of the most defining, is Vanguard card. If I just hover over this, there's a little info blurb. Vanguard prevents other non-Vanguard cards from being attacked while in play. This includes your champion. Vanguard does not work if the unit has hidden or through effect cards like Emerald Splash, which deal damage to all units on field or damage your champion directly, like Jonathan Joestar's champion ability. Vanguard does not stop those kinds of attacks from hitting. Up next is Swarm. Swarm is a simple ability. When the card with Swarm is drawn from the deck, it will give you 2 of those cards instead of 1. You will have 2 separate and unique copies of the card, which can be played independently as if they were both the original. Cards given the Swarm ability through Colony Stand will retain any stat changes applied to them on the board, including damage, debuffs, and buffs. After that is Rush. All cards have a 1-turn delay before attacking when played, but Rush cards can attack immediately. They are one of the most prevalent card archetypes alongside Swarm and Vanguard, and are very useful for racking up quick early damage or taking out units before they become a major threat, because Rush cards can attack the first turn they're on the field. So the next one we've got is Hidden. Hidden is an ability that makes a card immune to any action except being returned to your hand by Bites the Dust. It cannot be targeted by any ability, unit, or effect until it either uses a power or attacks an enemy unit. Similar, but not identical, is Elusive. Elusive prevents a card from being targeted by enemy abilities like champion abilities. For example, Jojo would not be able to lower this Aqua Necklace's attack, and Magician Red's Crossfire Hurricane wouldn't be able to hurt it. Still be hit by effects, invokes, and basically any ability that doesn't require a specific targeting, which is the UI when that red arrow comes up and you have to click on something. It can still be hit by board clears and other stuff like that. Moving on, one of my personal favorites is Snipe. Snipe is an ability that allows the unit to attack an enemy without the unit taking any damage. It basically avoids the unit's counterattack. Snipe units will still take damage when targeted, so they're not invincible, but avoiding enemy counterattacks. One that's typically paired with Snipe is Destructive. Destructive destroys an enemy unit as long as the unit successfully deals attack damage to the enemy. Ability damage is not affected by Destructive, and will simply deal that amount of damage. A unit with Last Life will still be revived with 1 HP even if hit with the Destructive attack. It will reduce their HP to 1 and get rid of their Last Life effect. Up next, one of the only abilities that I would consider a debuff is Combatant. Combatant prevents the unit from attacking the enemy champion. And one of the more outlying abilities, which honestly I'm not even sure if it is an ability, is Blinding Speed. Blinding Speed allows a unit to attack twice per turn. This is the last main archetype, but there are still some sub-archetypes to be mentioned. For example, Defensive. Defense reduces all incoming attacks on the unit by the designated amount. There's Overload. Reduces your next turn's mana amount by the designated number. It does not affect max mana, it only reduces your turn mana. So if you had 10 mana and you played cards next turn, you would only have 8 mana because the overload would remove 2. Then there is Sacrifice. Sacrifice requires the designated number of units to be destroyed in order to play the card. As for a couple more general terms, invokes will trigger when the card is played. Repeats will trigger every time the opponent ends a turn. Defensive triggers whenever the unit is attacked. Offensive triggers whenever the unit attacks. And Death Rattle triggers whenever the unit is destroyed. Hopefully you got all that. There are 3 remaining card types: Effect, Weapons, and Collectibles. Collectibles are collectible. Pretty straightforward. The next type are Effects cards. Effects trigger the ability explained on the card. There are a few main types of effects. There are board sweeps, like Hero Sacrifice and Emerald Splash, which deal damage to all units on the field. Target effects, which target a specific unit and give them that ability, whether good or bad. There's modifiers, which change a card's stats, like Touch of Death sets a unit to 1 health, or Set sets a unit's attack to 1, and Summonings, which put a certain number of units on the field. For example, Registering Destiny sends all stand units from the discard pile to the board. Healed Walls summons 2 walls with Vanguard. Weapons are a card that allow your champion to attack. It is not treated like a champion's attack stat, instead going along. They're effectively the same as units, but you can only have one at a time. Playing another will remove the previous weapon. They can only be used as many times as the white circle indicates. For example, Clacker Volleys can only be used once, Tommy Gun can be used 3 times, and Anubis is a 1-use card. So, congratulations, you now have the most basic understanding of the card mechanics I can give you. We'll go to the market now, and yeah, so this is where you can buy cards, be it units, or champions, effects, or weapons. Champions are separate from all the cards on the market, and are also the most expensive, being 1,600 and 10,000 each. Do not get these until you have all the cards you want. They are a waste, and no champion ability is locked behind the market. We're not heartless. They are simply cosmetic skins, basically, for other champions. Moving on, if you go back to collection, you'll see there's another tab up here next to my decks that says sets. If you go to sets, you'll find sets are how you get easy money and experience and unique units and champions. They require 1 type of each card listed. For example, Kechiko is a unit card, and you need 1 bad company helicopter, 1 bad company marine, and 1 bad company tank. in order to get him. He also gives you 10,000 points and 10,000 coins. He takes 10 minutes to produce. As for special champions, there's Doppio. He needs Aerosmith, Sex Pistols, Gold Experience, Purple Haze, and Spice Girls. And then there's Jojo. Star Platinum the World, Hierophant Green, Kakyoan, and Hierophant Green Possession. And as you see, each one gives more and more points as they get more and more rare. Each set requires a certain level to use. For example, to get Tetsuko, you need level 5. To get Doppio, you need level 20. And to get Jojo, you need level 30. I am level 57, so I already have all of these. But for you, the most important thing for new players is to get to level 5. Once you get to level 5, you can do the daily sets. These are the easiest way to get money and coins, considering there aren't a ton of players online all the time. You get one for every 5 matches you play. If you can't find anyone to play with, please join our Discord server in the description and ping the looking for a match role. If no other players are on, one of our moderators will likely be willing to play a game or two if they aren't too busy. The last tab is the community tab, but I'll let you just check that one out for yourself. Now, finally, the moment you've all been waiting for, gameplay. I'm gonna go get my deck ready, and me and a friend are going to play around so you can see the game in action for yourselves. I'll try to point out some stuff I explained earlier, as many as any engine quirks and tips I could give to help you get to the next level. So let me just get everything ready. Hello everyone, this is Cog again. I'm sure you were watching the beginning half of the video. But anyways, we're now at the gameplay section. I am dubbing over this in post because the audio got all messed up in the original recording. So, but right now I'm explaining how to start the game. You just click on the play button at the top of the screen. There's 2 different running game modes right now, normal and random decks. Normal decks use the cards you already have, which you saw in your collection. Random decks use random decks based around each part. Like the part 1 deck can have a random champion like Jonathan or Dio. Part 2 will have Jose. Part 3 can have any part 3 character, etc. So anyways, we're getting into the game now, so I'll shut up. I'm playing against my friend Kojo. He's running Pillars and Vampires, and also Aerosmith, but it's mostly Pillars and Zombies, which are much lower cost, faster to play units than stands typically are. There's not as many pillar units, but what they lack in numbers, they more than make up for in strengths. So anyways, the game's already started. I started opening with Vampire Gladiators. They're a pretty useful card with Vanguard. They prevent your opponent from attacking pretty early on. They're cheap, only costing 2 mana. I'm running Jojo because he can lower the opponent's attack, which is pretty helpful. As you see, I can attack his Vampire Gladiator while keeping my HP up pretty high, and he has to. So anyways, I'm playing Kakyoan to get his Gladiator off the field, and here I could have attacked his Jack the Ripper and killed it, but it's a lot better to get the bonus damage by attacking his champion and then forcing his unit to attack my Vampire Gladiator. This wouldn't have been as safe if my Gladiator had only 1 HP, because then he could have Emerald Splashed and hit me directly instead, and things wouldn't have gone as well. Jonathan's ability deals 2 damage to the enemy champion, so he's really good at extracting damage, which is why decks like Rush, Vampires, Pillars are typically played along with him, because he's just really good at supporting the continuous stream of damage with his ability, while mid-range decks benefit more from stuff like Doppio and Jojo because they help preserve units longer by lowering the opponent's attack and getting more units on the field by lowering their mana cost, and keeping that cost though in case somebody uses Bites the Dust or something. Here Kojo used a bunch of board clears. He used Emerald Splash to first get rid of the shield on my Horus, so that the hero sacrifice would hit for full damage. Here I'm getting defenses up by putting out another Vampire Gladiator, lowering his attack. We're basically back to square one, but I still have the HP lead in comparison, so that's important. I believe I go for the Wamu and get something else on the field. My Vampire Horses from the Wamu can easily take out his Wamu, and with that I've got the board cleared. It's always important to keep a card lead on your opponent, as I like to call it. It's not really something most people in the community talk about or use. It's mostly a term I sort of made up, but it's making sure you have more units and more cards than your opponent. Like for example, Kojo's down to 1 while I still have a hand of 4 or 5 cards that leave me open to being able to do many different plays. Got Touch of Death in case any big threats come out. I've got 2 board clears, one's for smaller units like Bad Company, one's for bigger mid-ranged units. And right there I put out Spice Girls, lowered his Wamu's attack thinking he wasn't going to draw any more really powerful cards, but I should have been thinking about the fact that we're in late game. Regardless, it was still a pretty good play, kept his field pretty clear. Here, I just go for the cars into Emerald Splash. There were other plays I could have made, but I felt like that was the optimal one at the time. With stuff like Touch of Death and Little Feet, I could have tried to lower Wamu's HP to 1 and get him with a board clear or something, but that wouldn't have been as effective. So here I'm deliberating between playing the Aerosmith and using Touch of Death on the Star Platinum, or going with Little Feet and using his ability in conjunction with Jojo's to lower Star Platinum's attack twice. I realized that that wouldn't be enough even with Kars' bonus attack lowering. It would only get Star Platinum down to 5, which is exactly as much HP as Kars, so I wouldn't be able to save any units by doing that, so I just go for the Touch of Death Aerosmith, get Star Platinum out the field, keep Wamu's HP low, which continues my sustainability. I was planning to just hit the Wamu with Aerosmith, but now that he's got a lot of units on the field, I instead just attack Kars because Aerosmith isn't strong enough to take any of them out, and just use my board clear. Since his hand is empty, he's really got no sort of pressure he can put on me. I still have the unit advantage and board advantage in general, so even if he's leading me 14 to 21, I can keep the field very clear. And now my heavy hitters are coming out in the form of Cream. His damage is completely effect-based, and that's what this deck is based around, is indirect damage. It's mostly used to deter other Jotaros, but it's pretty effective against basically any sort of deck, because not having to hit your opponent and preventing your opponent from hitting you kind of wins you the game. So he's really backed into a corner. He's just getting really bad draws right now. He doesn't have anything super strong to keep on the field, and Creams just tear through everything. What would have been, with 2 Creams on the field, you've basically lost. There's not much that can kill it unless you have a huge card advantage. You've got 2 Touch of Deaths or Misas of the Void or some other powerful board clear like Kars to lower the HP and get them off the field as soon as possible. Here I'm tearing into him. Even with the World, one of the best cards in the game, I can just Touch of Death and smack him with Kakyoin. Here I'm saying good game, and it was a really close match. He really tore into me in that later half. It was a good game, and it was really close. And Kojo is a really good player. So anyways, that's the end of the tutorial video. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you better understand how the game works. If you haven't played the game before, I hope you are willing to join our community and try it out. It's really fun, in my opinion, and I hope you think the same. If you have played the game before, I hope this has helped you to better understand how it works, and perhaps even help you get better. I was trying to explain how Gave Advice could help with deck building and others. I hope you enjoyed. I may make other videos about deck building and other stuff. I'm not sure. We'll have to see, but that's all. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you later.